2023 is over. It's done. Let's talk about the best sci-fi movies that dropped this year. My name's Bryan, and I own the science fiction bookstore Postmarked from the Stars. Every year, I compile my favorite sci-fi movies that were released that year. And I watched over 25 sci-fi movies this time around. Some were truly incredible, like Godzilla Minus One, and some were god awful. I'm looking at you, Linoleum. Don't worry though, this video is going to be totally spoiler free, so let's jump into my list. But first, a quick heads up. Obviously, I love movies, I love sci-fi. I actually even worked at a used movie store back in the day and got paid to talk about movies. But even if I've seen hundreds of sci-fi movies, even if I've read hundreds and hundreds of sci-fi books, at the end of the day, all that being said, this is just my opinion. It's just what I liked, or didn't like for that matter. So you might hear my hot take on Rebel Moon or The Creator and want to jump to the next video. You're not going to hurt my feelings. That's okay. That's totally fine. I love making videos and I love hearing from you all about what you thought about the big movies that came out this year. So I genuinely look forward to hearing your comments about the movies that came out this year. So please, this is an open invitation. Leave comments on these 25 films. And I think that, just to kick off today's video, 2023 has been kind of wild. So how about a little context, right? This year was different than the past few. We never got Dune Part 2. We were robbed of arguably the biggest sci-fi movie slated for 2023. And that aside, though, it left the field wide open for what was going to take the cake. So in a year where AI, are arguably learning language models like ChatGPT, in a year where they've blown up, AI's played a huge role in 2023's sci-fi landscape. Personally, I sat in a conference where someone from McKinsey officially said that they believe that in the next 2 years, something like 80% of what a traditional knowledge worker does will be affected by AI. Whether they're right, who knows, but that's what people are talking about right now. So when you see either a perceived or real seismic scientific and cultural tech development, sci-fi storytelling is more important than ever before. The movies that I'll highlight today, though, they touch on technology's footprint, what does futurism look like in the 2020s, elements of identity, cancel culture, cloning, income inequality, traditional superheroes like Batman and Ant-Man, and new takes on old stories like Frankenstein. Truth be told, 2023 was chock full of thought-provoking stories. And, at the end of the day, science fiction at its best, in my opinion, tells us where we've been, where we might be right now, and maybe even most importantly, where we might be going. And I think many of the films on this year's top 25 list did just that. So let's get into it. All right, number 25, Jung-E. Kicking off our countdown is a Korean sci-fi adventure set against rising water levels caused by climate change. It features orbital habitats in space, and it's really steeped in what I think is pretty safe to say cyberpunk aesthetics. So let's dive into the movie teaser. On an uninhabitable 22nd century Earth, the outcome of a civil war hinges on cloning the brain of an elite soldier to create a robot mercenary. Straightforward, right? Well, truth be told, this one missed the mark. It's not just bad, it's mind-numbingly mediocre. I'm not trying to be mean, but it's frustratingly forgettable. Almost the epitome of what people who hate sci-fi, like the anti-sci-fi folks, might imagine a sci-fi movie is normally like. It lacks depth to provoke thought, it falls short on entertainment, it's very forgettable. Cyberpunk vibes, though. So it has that going for it. Yeah, it has that going for it. And next up, we have my least favorite sci-fi movie of the year, Linoleum. Ready? Here's the blurb. When the host of a failing children's science show endeavors to achieve his childhood dream of becoming an astronaut by constructing a rocket ship in his garage, a series of bizarre events occur that cause him to question his own reality. Linoleum is manipulative. It's a waste of time Actually, I'm going to say it like this. One of my best friends may have spoiled the waters for me because he came out so strongly against this movie before I even watched it. It was one of the most insane, aggressive anti-movie takedowns of all time. But that might have spoiled the waters. And then the second strike before the movie even started is I'm not the biggest fan of Jim Gaffigan. I love a lot of comedians. He's just not one of them. So there's that. But the real reason that this movie is in nearly last place is because the ending sucked. Its pacing was awful throughout, but everything about this movie was a letdown. And I rarely say this, but avoid at all costs. I'm not trying to be mean. It's just not good, and I'm going to save that time for you. So you can see it if you want. Maybe you're like, Linoleum is the best one of this year. Not for me. Next up is with a budget of $210 million. It only made back $159 million, but we have The Flash. This was quite possibly the most watched sci-fi movie of the year, only competing with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Some have said the superhero era might be, criticized or whatever, but from a numbers perspective, superhero movies this year were still dominant in terms of eyeballs and dollar signs. Of course, that doesn't always equate to a perfect execution, but and being honest, The Flash was one of the most poorly reviewed films this year when you think of things like Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb or Letterboxd, etc. It didn't do well there, but and honestly, not that you need it, but here's the plot teaser. Barry Allen uses his super speed to change the past, but his attempt to save his family creates a world without superheroes, forcing him to race for his life in order to save the future. So that's pretty straightforward. It's in the realm of positive feedback. It does have decent action. Ezra does a serviceable job. As a fan of Batman, though, this scratches a much needed itch. I'm not ashamed to say I really enjoyed it, though. I know that doesn't make any sense, but think what you may of Ezra, regardless of what you think of him. It's a really strong Flash. It's fun. The movie works while also not working at all. I hope some of you understand what I mean. I know it's kind of a circular way of saying something, but I just want to hang out more with Batman. Just take my money and make more Batman live action films already. I don't even care with who. I just want more Batman movies. All right. Next up on our list, number 22, is one that honestly very, very few people have seen. So here's the deal. I absolutely adore near future sci-fi. I think it's some of the hardest science fiction to make. This movie actually gave me similar vibes to After Yang or the movie Her. Both of those movies are absolutely stunning and pull off something that is really hard to do. The Pod Generation is very much so after that same vein. Here's the blurb. In a not-so-distant future, tech giant Pegasus offers couples the opportunity to share their pregnancy via detachable artificial wombs or pods. And so begin Rachel and Alvy's wild ride to parenthood in this brave new world. I will never get the images of Emilia Clarke and her husband sitting in front of a giant AI eyeball shrink. That image is seared into my mind forever. It's very freaky. But that aside, there are some beautifully compelling scenes in this movie. It's got some pretty impressive moments where it explores love, parenthood, and what does it mean to live at the gate of things like gene editing and, again, AI and artificial wombs. Others have said this, and I totally agree. The first half is a lot stronger than the second. I really can't wait until more folks stumble across it. I'm curious for your thoughts. Maybe it is more, in the vein of Her or After Yang, but we'll see. But yeah, so that's the Pod Generation. Excited to hear what you all think of that one. Number 21, Ant-Man Quantumania. Next up is obviously one of the bigger, more controversial superhero movies of the year. But far more importantly, there is a giant broccoli alien. Not that you need the movie blurb, but we're going to do this for all of them. So Scott Lang and Hope Van Dyne are dragged into the quantum realm, along with Hope's parents and their Scott's daughter, Cassie. Together they must find a way to escape, but what secrets is Hope's mother hiding? And who is the mysterious Kang? The easiest way I can talk about this movie is with a question. Do you like the cantina scene in Star Wars? This movie really tries to emulate similar vibes. Honestly, though, if you watch the trailer, it doesn't give any of these vibes, but they should have just pitched it as, do you want to watch a movie with cool aliens for 2 hours? Jump in with the Marvel crew and watch Jonathan Majors yell for 2 hours. This is a fun movie, though. It's genuinely funny. I smiled, admittedly, probably way too much for given how much flack this movie caught. But at the end of the day, it made $470 million. So I have a feeling many of you enjoyed it too. All right, now the number on our list, we're at 20, but the movie, and probably with the worst title, is 65. The blurb goes as this. An astronaut crash lands on a mysterious planet only to discover he's not alone. There is so much freaking potential to this movie. I wanted it to work out. The writer of the film, Scott Beck, also wrote The Quiet Place, which, I don't have to tell you this, is absolutely amazing. So I came in with really high hopes. And it feels like, with Adam Driver and dinosaurs, it had all the right ingredients. It just didn't land the way I imagine they hoped it did. But at least 82,000 people rated this movie on IMDb, so I know some of you actually caught it. What did you think? What did you think of 65? And more importantly, what did you think of the end? This is a spoiler-free review, so I won't say anything more. All right, next up, number 19. With quite possibly the inverse of the last one, the best name on the list, Aliens Abducted My Parents, and now I feel kind of left out. I don't usually watch kids' movies, but I wanted to add some variety to this list, so here we are. Nobody, and I mean nobody, has seen this movie. If you check the numbers, very few people have reviewed it. I actually watched it on my phone while on vacation, and admittedly really liked it. So let's do the movie teaser. It sees New in town and thinks her life is over until she meets a new space-obsessed neighbor, Calvin, who believes his parents were abducted by aliens. As an aspiring journalist, Itzy decides to write an expose, but she discovers much more. I firmly believe in why I say something different when someone said it even better. Mike McGranahan on Letterboxd said, it plays like Close Encounters of the Third Kind melded to a John Hughes film. I think that's a perfect way to describe it. And while this is pretty much the only children's movie on my list, I admittedly did not watch Disney's movie called Crater. So if you have little ones, I guess that also came out this year, and you should probably give that a look too. Number 18. How about a more controversial one? You know, I love end of the world books and movies, anything in the vein of 28 Days Later or Station 11 or the Book of Eli, The Road. That's kind of all my jam. So let's talk about Leave the World Behind. A family's getaway to a luxurious rental home takes an ominous turn when a cyber attack knocks out their devices and two strangers appear at their door. This movie hits the spot perfectly between one of my wife's favorite actors, Julia Roberts, and one of my favorite actors, Mahershala Ali. I've always loved Mr. Robot, so I only have the utmost respect for director Sam Esmail. I think his commentary, he's an expert. But I want to get to the commentary that was about this movie's ending, which was splattered all over my social media channels. Obviously no spoilers, but when it first dropped on Netflix, they had opinions. I respect the ending. I think it's bold. I also got to say, I will never stop loving Ethan Hawke. As someone who just recently saw the Before Sunrise trilogy, he has built up so much goodwill with me that man can do no wrong. And incidentally, I love him in this. I do think, though, that Leave the World Behind is going to gain a following over time. I think they might have caught something really special in that movie. Next up at number 17 is No One Will Save You. Its premise is kind of hilarious. An exiled, anxiety-ridden homebody must battle an alien who's found its way into her home. I would describe this movie as an hour and a half of me screaming at my TV. Caitlin Dever was great. Honestly, I was really impressed by her. The aliens were legitimately horrifying. The CGI was excellent. If you have repressed trauma from the movie Signs, do not, I repeat, do not watch this movie. No One Will Save You is almost completely without any dialogue, which is also another nod to how excellent Dever is in this alien home invasion adventure. Right now, only about 50,000 people have clocked this in on IMDb or Letterboxd, so I look forward to seeing what folks think about it as it kind of gains some more views. Quick note, another hugely slept-on sci-fi gem that came out in 2020 called Underwater was also written by this director, Bryan. So yeah, this guy is quickly becoming a name that I need to keep track of when it comes to quality science fiction storytelling. I also want to highlight that this is a quick watch. Hooray for short movies! Please keep making short movies. They have huge value. Everything does not have to be 3 hours. Next up, though, is number 16 on our list. I know I'm going to get some flack for this, but it's my list and I'll do what I want. First, I think you got to just acknowledge this. Beyond the Sea is part of the Black Mirror series, but it's also 2 hours long. It has Jesse freaking Pinkman teamed up with the homie from The Faculty. I will put some respect on Josh Hartnett's name, but here's the plot. It's pretty straightforward. In an alternate 1969, two men on a perilous high-tech mission wrestle with the consequences of an unimaginable tragedy. Jokes aside, Josh Hartnett was truly impressive in this, so that's why it's on my list. Pretty straightforward. I really, really enjoyed this one. You'll see where it's ranked at in my list. If you haven't seen it, definitely put it on your queue. Nearly 30,000 people have logged it into Letterboxd and IMDb, which is actually like sizably more than quite a few others on this list. So I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's at number 16 for a reason. All right, 10 down. Next up is number 15, Godzilla Minus One. The premise for this one is pretty straightforward too. Post-war Japan is at its lowest point when a new crisis emerges in the form of a giant monster, baptized in the horrific power of the atomic bomb. Do not skip this movie. Do not. It's excellent. I was blown away by how good it was. I went and saw it in theaters, and I'm so glad I did. This is the type of movie that reminds us why seeing a movie in theaters elevates the medium overall. The sheer fact they made this for some comically small number, I think it was $15 million or something, is absolutely bonkers. I just need more Godzilla in my life after this. I know some of you are going to be like, why is it here? But neither here nor there. Next up is easily our most hated sci-fi movie of the year. Number 14 is Rebel Moon Part 1. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can this jabroni possibly have Rebel Moon ranked higher than freaking Godzilla Minus One? The answer, though, I promise you, is very simple. I absolutely love space opera. I read a majority of the sci-fi books behind me are space opera. It's my favorite subgenre of sci-fi. I will always stand for horrible attempts at it. I'm looking at you, Jupiter Ascending and Valerian. Not that you probably need it, though, but here's the movie blurb. There's some great history behind this movie, but movie blurb. When a peaceful settlement on the edge of a distant moon finds itself threatened by the armies of a tyrannical ruling force, a mysterious stranger living among its villagers becomes their best hope for survival. So apparently Snyder actually approached Lucasfilms to make an R-rated Star Wars, and they didn't take it, so Netflix took it, and we get Rebel Moon. I really liked some of the alien designs. I'm all in for more alien spider beings. Give me more of that. Rebel Moon is obviously far from perfect, though. Lots of people seem to freaking hate this movie, think it's derivative, but I'm genuinely gentle on space opera, so that's why it's here. If I was like 14 years old, or maybe like that teenage age, I would have absolutely, and I know this without a doubt, have loved it. It very much so plays into my Titan AE upbringing. I enjoyed Rebel Moon. I'm not going to apologize for it. It was fun. Coming in hot at number 13 is Indiana Jones 5, also known as Dial of Destiny. Archaeologist Indiana Jones races against time to retrieve a legendary artifact that can change the course of history. I rated this movie 5 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd, but mainly because I freaking love Indiana Jones. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is completely badass. She's funny, competent, stylish. I genuinely think this franchise would be in good hands if it pivoted to her. I know some people have talked about that. I would not be mad. I genuinely would not be mad. The first chunk of the movie using CGI de-aging effects was stunning. It was like honestly amazing. I love the movie though. It could arguably be bumped up probably about 5 spots, but here we are, you know. And last note, this was the most expensive sci-fi movie to make this year, nearly beating out Mission Impossible. Apparently it cost something like $300 million compared to Mission Impossible's $291 million, so that's kind of noteworthy, if you will. Next up is number 12, The Artifice Girl. I'm actually not going to say the movie blurb for this because I think it gives way too much away. The opening scene in this one is probably the best from the whole list. So, in short, this movie is about people fighting pedophilia, prosecuting people who harm children, and the implications of using tech to do that. It's hard to say much more about this movie without giving anything away. You need to see it. Like, you really need to see it. It's super thought-provoking and well-designed. Huge kudos to the team that brought it together, especially the writer, the director, and the freaking actor, Franklin Rich. This was his debut feature film, and he delivered. Without any spoilers, there's also a certain sci-fi legend that also appears in this movie, and it's a fun little surprise if you're, into that type of thing. So, The Artifice Girl, definitely go see that one. Number 11. We've almost cracked the top 10, but coming in at number 11 is the newest Mission Impossible. Ethan Hunt and his IMF team must track down a dangerous weapon before it falls into the wrong hands. These movies are so freaking hard. I don't care what anyone says, they go hard. Like, these movies are some of the most fun out there. The fact that, this is the 7th movie in the series, it's just so high quality and fun. Get out of here. Just get out of here, guys. Why is this series so strong? And I think it's pretty straightforward. Tom Cruise is one of the greatest movie makers of all time. I'm sure some folks disagree, but you cannot watch this movie and not be impressed by this madman. The stunts are insane. The whole train scene was straight up white knuckle. It's just an incredibly well executed and fun adventure that just so happens to have AI driving the main plot. This also might be one of my favorite anecdotes regarding sci-fi movies this year and kind of connections to the real world. But apparently Deputy White House Chief of Staff Bruce Reed told the Associated Press this year that AI is an issue of great importance to our president. Biden, he was both impressed and alarmed after seeing fake images of himself and learning about the terrifying technology of voice cloning. So from an anecdotal standpoint, this is just I need you to know this, that according to Reed, Biden's concern about AI grew after watching this new Mission Impossible movie. He went on saying, if he hadn't already been concerned about what could go wrong with AI before the movie, he saw plenty more to worry about, Reed said. And he actually watched the movie with the president, so this is just great, a great example of the movie medium, the sci-fi movies medium, actually engendering conversations about where our tech is going. So that's that happened, which I think is really unique. Here we are. Fasten your seatbelts. We have cracked the top 10. All right, I'm fairly confident this isn't on a lot of folks' radars. So at number 10, we have Lola. In 1940, Tom and Mars have built a machine, Lola, that can intercept radio and TV broadcasts from the future. Unknown to them, sharing these broadcasts will bring devastating changes, not just to the future of the world, but to them as well. I'm just going to say, like, nobody has seen this movie, but you really need to. Like, you need to see it. It's part of a very narrow niche of found footage genre. If you're thinking about World War II and you like alternate histories and time travel, this movie is incredibly well executed. It's very inventive and enjoyable. I was totally caught off guard with how blown away I was by this. So yay, small indie films. And huge shout out to the Irish-British achievement that we have here. And also a major kudos to the director, Andrew Legg. This is his feature directorial debut. I'm very excited to kind of follow his work. Number 9, Skarsgård and Mia Goth are both horrifying and mesmerizing, crashing around inside Infinity Pool. James and N. Foster are enjoying an all-inclusive beach vacation on the island of La Toca when a fatal accident exposes the resort's perverse subculture of hedonistic tourism, reckless violence, and surreal horrors. This movie will grab you by the head and smash your head against anything nearby. I'm serious when I say this. Good Lord, is this movie violent. It's absolutely insane. I loved it though. It's so terrifyingly weird. This is probably outside a lot of people's comfort zones, but wow. It's definitely a top 10 pick for me. I even actually bought a copy of it so I could have it in my collection. If you liked Infinity Pool, please don't forget his other movies like Possessor. It's delightfully insane too. It was made on a pretty small budget when compared to most movies on this list, and it was absolutely bonkers what they were able to pull off. So huge kudos to Skarsgård and Mia Goth. Absolutely insane. Number 8 centers on 2 mysterious brothers who abduct a mogul during his quest for immortality. Meanwhile, a seductive woman helps them launch a journey of self-discovery. Divinity was visually stunning. It was caked with nonstop violence, nudity, and an enormous dose of vanity. Divinity is inspiringly bold and beautiful. It creatively plays with ideas around fertility and aging. The set itself serves as a character in its own right. It's an exceptionally stunning backdrop for an art house adventure. I just got to give huge kudos to Stephen Dorff, who completely delivers in this role of crusading inventor. While definitely not for the squeamish, it is a refreshing reminder that there's plenty of fun sci-fi ideas still floating around. You gotta give Eddie Alcazar all the money in the world to make more weird sci-fi. If you liked Possessor or Tetsuo, the Iron Man, or High Life, definitely check out Divinity. Coming in for a much softer landing, number 7 is Asteroid City, following a writer on his world-famous fictional play about a grieving father who travels with his tech-obsessed family to a small rural asteroid city to compete in a junior stargazing event, only to have his worldview disrupted forever. I'm like many, I genuinely love Wes Anderson movies. This is, it was beautiful. Someone on Letterboxd cracked me up though. They said, all these famous actors, and the one who made me lose it the most was Hugo from Succession. I miss Succession. Jokes aside though, it was a fun run through. Asteroid City is easily a 4.5 out of 5 stars for me. It's super unique and genuinely just fun sci-fi. It's a fun sci-fi movie. Strong number 7. Strong number 7. Good work, Wes. Keep up the good work. All right, number 6 on our list now for the second most lucrative sci-fi movie of the year, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Miles Morales catapults across the multiverse where he encounters a team of spider people charged with protecting its very existence. When the heroes clash on how to handle a new threat, Miles must redefine what it means to be a hero. I loved it. This is an excellent movie that really stood up to the pressure of being a sequel to arguably one of the best superhero classics to come out in the last 10 years. I think it's safe to say a lot of folks love Miles Morales as a character. I know I certainly do. Just really, really impressed with what they did with that sequel. All right, we're in the top 5 territory. We've officially cracked top 5 territory. At number 5, we have They Cloned Tyrone. I love John Boyega. I love Jamie Foxx. The whole trio did incredible. What do you get when you smash them together, though? Possibly a new sci-fi classic. A series of eerie events thrusts an unlikely trio onto the trail of a nefarious government conspiracy in this mystery caper. This movie expertly unpackages heavy topics with ease and action. You know, there's so many loud lines in this movie. I hope it builds a cult following. You know, over time, I really think it will. Fans that have seen it absolutely seem to love it. It's currently rocking 100% fan rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Jewel Taylor, he knocked his featured directorial debut out of the park. I'm very, very excited to see what he does with his next couple of projects because just wow. Truly an impressive feat here. Number 4. I can't give too much away on this one. It's just, there's always a movie on the list, you can't give it away. A hapless family man finds his life turned upside down when millions of strangers suddenly start seeing him in their dreams. When his nighttime appearances take a nightmarish turn, Paul is forced to navigate his newfound stardom. You know, this is a spoiler-free list, so I feel kind of like my hands are paralyzed from saying much more without giving, huge pieces away. Go see this movie. It is both hilarious and terrifying. Go see Dream Scenario. All right, number 3, we have The Creator. Against the backdrop of a war between humans and robots with artificial intelligence, a former soldier finds the secret weapon, a robot in the form of a young child. I will not tolerate any John David Washington slander. I love that man. I think he's really talented. I know some people love picking on him, but I really enjoyed this movie. There's a scene with Radiohead playing. It's fantastic. It might be my favorite scene of the year. It really speaks to me. I mean, I got Radiohead right up here in the corner here. But please keep giving Gareth Edwards money to make sci-fi. If you like sci-fi, please go out and rent this movie. It's very creative while also admittedly falling sort of flat in the end. It's far from perfect, but I loved it. And it had a lot of nice cyberpunk vibes. So that's why it's on my list at number 3. What did you think of The Creator? I liked it. What did you think? Nearing the end, coming in at number 2, we have, still reeling from the loss of Gamora, Peter Quill rallies his team to defend the universe in one of their own, a mission that could mean the end of the Guardians, if not successful. I adored this conclusion. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, come on now, James Gunn has made such fun and lovable characters. Rocket Raccoon is my favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe character, and this movie gave him such a strong arc. This is the best Marvel flick since Endgame, not even close. I actually cried during this movie. I won't even pretend to hide it. I did. The movie was delightful. It was also the most commercially successful sci-fi movie of the year. It made $845 million. It's a lot of dough. All right, here we are. Number 1 sci-fi movie of 2023, according to yours truly, is Poor Things. The incredible tale about the fantastical evolution of Bella Baxter, a young woman brought back to life by the brilliant and unorthodox scientist Dr. Godwin Baxter. In a media landscape of comically safe and derivative crap, Poor Things is genuinely insane. It's ambitious. It's risque. It's going to be horribly offensive to some. You got your warning. It's wildly funny, though. You can tell the same guy that made The Favorite made this one for sure. It's got its unique brand of like humor that's devilishly uncomfortable while also having like people actually laugh in the theater. Emma Stone is gonna deservedly win another Oscar. I'm calling it now. And if she doesn't, she freaking should. I don't feel crazy saying that. I really don't. The movie is a creative exploration of family, power, sexuality, and really existence in general. It's safe to say Poor Things is science fiction at its finest. The movie is wildly weird, though. It's truly hard to compare to other movies. It really is compared to any other movie on this list. If you like the director's other classic, The Lobster, one of my favorites, you're really going to like this one, so no surprise, I love The Lobster. This is my number one. If this movie weirds you out, though, it's all good. These are just some of the movies that made my favorites this year. So yeah, Poor Things at number one. As we close out 2023, I feel like we were pretty spoiled. You know, lots of great sci-fi stories hit the silver screen. They grossed over $3.5 billion at the box office. Millions of people logged their ratings on IMDb and Letterboxd, and some huge surprises came out of left field. And a few heavy hitters actually landed, you know, things like Spider-Man, Poor Things, Godzilla, Guardians Volume 3, all maintain a 4.0 or higher on Letterboxd right now. Meanwhile, you know, Rebel Moon and 65 were pretty poorly rated by just about everybody except maybe me. But regardless of my rankings, it seems like a lot of the movies on this list were enjoyed by a lot of people. And I think that's exciting. So what did you think of my list? How many of them have you seen? What were your favorite out of the sci-fi movies that dropped this year? And if you're a sucker for data, I collated a bunch of different stuff like ratings and budget and gross revenue and all that jazz. So throw that up and I'll throw it up. You check it out in the video description. And if you like the video, please make sure to follow my science fiction bookstore, Postmarked from the Stars. Your support doesn't just fuel my passion for sci-fi, it actually supports my family too. So, you know, we sell thousands of vintage sci-fi books, hardbacks, paperbacks, the whole Shazam. Definitely check us out. And also, you can buy new books through our partnership with bookshop.org. So make sure to designate us as your bookstore and snag new books through bookshop.org. And I guess, you know, last but certainly not least, if you're an audiobooker like me, you can even join Libro FM and get audiobooks that supports our store too. So those are the plugs. Let us know what you think. You know, I don't have the best camera or the best editing skills or the best microphone, but from broccoli aliens to angry spider monsters to an insanely lovable river otter and so many other quirky fun characters that entered the sci-fi zeitgeist, this is my top 25 sci-fi movies of 2023. Did I leave anything out? Let me know what should have been at the top of my list and why it should have been Godzilla Minus One. Thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you around. Thanks for following my page and thanks for following my bookstore, and let me know in the comments what you think. I'm excited to read them. Thanks.